Elena had never meant to wander into the wrong part of the city, let alone the office of Dante Moretti, the mafia boss whose name alone sent shivers through anyone who heard it. She was just trying to deliver some papers for her small client, and yet here she was, standing in the dimly lit office with polished marble floors, a chandelier flickering overhead. Dante sat behind his massive desk, his sharp eyes glinting like daggers in the shadows. He didn't move immediately. He just stared, and Elena felt as if he could see every secret she'd ever held. "You shouldn't be here," he said finally, his voice low, dangerous, yet oddly smooth. "I am sorry, Elena stammered, but her words caught in her throat when Dante stood, moving with that predatory grace that made her heart race. Before she could step back, he was beside her, close enough that she could smell the faint cologne, a mix of leather and something darker, intoxicating. His hand brushed against hers, not exactly accidental, and she felt her body betray her with a shiver. "I could lay here forever, between your legs," he whispered, his voice thick with possessiveness. Elena froze. Shock, fear, and something dangerously close to desire collided inside her. Her mind screamed at her to run, to escape, but her body remained rooted, hypnotized by the dark, commanding presence before her. Dante's eyes softened ever so slightly, not completely, just enough that she saw a flicker of something human behind the ruthless exterior. "Do you think I'm joking?" he murmured. She shook her head, barely breathing. He smirked, a dangerous curve of his lips that made her knees weak. "Good. Because I never joke when it comes to what I want." Her pulse thundered in her ears. Fear, desire, confusion, all tangled into a knot that seemed impossible to unravel. And yet, as he leaned back just slightly, letting the tension linger like a live wire between them, Elena knew this encounter wasn't over. In fact, it was only the beginning. The next morning, Elena woke with a pounding headache and a swirling mix of fear and adrenaline. Last night's encounter with Dante haunted her every thought. How could someone be so dangerous and yet so magnetic? Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number: "Meet me. Office. Noon." Her stomach twisted. She knew it had to be him. With hesitant steps, she arrived at the towering glass building, the sun reflecting off the marble floor just like yesterday. Dante was already there, leaning casually against his desk, arms crossed. That dangerous smirk that made her pulse race was back. "You came," he said, as if it were a surprise, though his voice suggested otherwise. I had no choice," she stammered, trying to sound braver than she felt. Dante tilted his head, eyes scanning her like a predator. "No choice? Or you wanted to see me again?" Elena flushed, heat creeping up her neck. It doesn't matter." "Everything about you matters," he murmured, stepping closer. Her breath hitched as he closed the distance. "I can't let you wander this city alone. Too many people would hurt you, or use you." "I can take care of myself," she said, more firmly than she felt. He laughed softly, dark and low. "Maybe. But I like knowing you're mine to protect. Stay close to me, Elena. 1 week. No questions. Just stay." Her heart raced. Stay with a mafia boss? The idea terrified her, but a part of her, the part that remembered his whispered words and that look in his eyes, wanted nothing more. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because you intrigue me," he said, stepping so close she could feel the heat radiating from him. "And because I don't let go of what I want." Elena swallowed hard. Fear tangled with an undeniable curiosity, and despite herself, she nodded. Dante's smirk widened. "Good. You'll see, life near me isn't safe. But it's unforgettable." And just like that, Elena's ordinary life was over. Elena had been with Dante for only a few days, but already the city felt different. Shadows seemed darker, danger closer. She tried to convince herself she was safe with him, yet every whisper of a street deal or flashing knife reminded her just how fragile her position was. Dante invited her to observe one of his business negotiations, claiming it was essential for her understanding. Elena's stomach twisted as they entered a dimly lit warehouse. Men with hard eyes and sharper intentions surrounded them. Dante's gaze never left hers, a silent warning that any misstep could be fatal. "You can leave if you want," he murmured in her ear, his breath sending shivers down her spine. "No," she said, surprising herself. Fear tangled with fascination. "I want to understand." The meeting began. Deals were struck, threats made, and Dante's commanding presence dominated the room. Elena couldn't help but notice how every man there responded to him, not with respect, but fear. And yet, when their eyes met across the table, She saw something entirely different, a flicker of protectiveness, just for her. One of Dante's men tried to challenge him subtly. In an instant, Dante's cold side surfaced. He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous, "You overstep, and you'll regret it." The man faltered. Elena's breath caught. She had never seen someone so powerful, and so terrifying, up close. After the meeting, Dante escorted her outside, the city lights casting long shadows over his sharp features. She tried to speak, but words failed her. "You did well today," he said quietly, his hand brushing hers, not accidental, but deliberate. That familiar heat surged through her, making it impossible to think clearly. "Dante." She began, but he silenced her with a finger on her lips. "No words. Just, remember how it feels to be near me," he whispered, his gaze smoldering. "Fear, yes. But excitement too. That's your first lesson." Elena's pulse raced, confusion and desire colliding. She was beginning to realize that surviving in Dante's world meant more than avoiding danger. It meant surrendering, just a little, to the pull he had over her. The office was empty, shadows stretching across the marble floors. Elena had thought she'd be alone, but Dante was already there, leaning against the desk, the dim light casting sharp angles across his face. "I didn't expect you," she said, trying to sound composed, though her heartbeat betrayed her. "You didn't think I'd let you wander alone tonight, did you?" he replied, his voice low, teasing. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. The faint scent of his cologne wrapped around her like a velvet trap. Elena swallowed, her pulse quickening. She wanted to resist, to remind herself he was dangerous, unpredictable. But the draw, the magnetism of him, was impossible to fight. "You've been watching me," she accused softly, though she knew it was true. "Always," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered, tracing the curve of her cheek, igniting warmth that traveled down her spine. "You have no idea how much I want you." Elena's knees threatened to buckle. "Dante," she whispered, but the word was weak, a tremor of desire and fear. He leaned in, close enough that she could feel his breath on her skin. "I could lay here forever, between your legs," he whispered, repeating the words that had haunted her dreams since their first encounter. Her body betrayed her, a shiver running through her, but her mind screamed at her to pull away. She tried, stepping back, but he followed, his dark eyes never leaving hers. "You don't get to run from this," he said softly, but firmly. "Not from me. Not from what we're becoming." Elena's resolve wavered. Fear and fascination danced in her chest, tangled in a knot she couldn't untie. She realized that being near Dante was dangerous, but thrilling in a way she'd never known. He stepped back slightly, letting her breathe, though the tension remained thick. "One day," he promised, "you'll understand why I can't let you go. And maybe, you won't want to." Elena's breath caught, heart racing, as the office door clicked behind them. She had survived the night, but she knew this was only the beginning of a dangerous, intoxicating game she couldn't escape. Elena never thought she'd step foot in Dante's private quarters, the part of his world no one else saw. Yet here she was, guided by Dante himself, the walls lined with expensive art and weapons that gleamed under soft lighting. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked cautiously, her eyes darting to the swords and firearms that seemed more like trophies than tools. "Because you need to understand me," Dante replied, his voice softer than usual. "Not the boss the world sees, the man behind it." Elena's curiosity piqued. "You mean there's more to you than danger and those words you keep whispering?" He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes entirely. "More than you could imagine. I've lost people, been betrayed, built walls around myself. But somehow, with you, I feel them starting to crumble." Elena stepped closer, drawn to the rare vulnerability in his gaze. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why let me in?" Dante sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "Because you're different. Fear doesn't make you run. Desire doesn't make you blind. You see parts of me no one else does, and that terrifies me." Her heart fluttered. Despite the danger, despite the tension, she felt something warm bloom inside her, connection. She realized that behind the ruthless mafia boss was a man capable of loyalty, passion, and even love. Dante's voice dropped, low and intimate. "I can't promise my world is safe for you, Elena. But I can promise, you'll never be alone in it. Not while I breathe." Her chest tightened, her body responding even as her mind screamed caution. "And if I get hurt?" she asked, voice barely audible. "You won't," he said, his eyes dark and protective. "I won't allow it." That's a promise only I can make, and keep. Elena's pulse raced. The combination of fear and desire wrapped her in a dizzying haze. She realized that her life with Dante wasn't about avoiding danger, it was about embracing the intensity of it, the thrill of being close to a man who could destroy her or save her with a single word. And in that moment, she understood, she didn't just want him, she needed him. Elena had begun to feel at home in Dante's world, but comfort was dangerous. Nothing in his life was simple, especially when another woman's name was whispered in the shadows. She first noticed her during a meeting at the club, a tall, elegant woman with a sly smile, laughing too freely at Dante's jokes. Elena's chest tightened, an unfamiliar pang of jealousy twisting inside her. Dante noticed her gaze but said nothing, only giving that smoldering look that made her heart race. Later, in the quiet of his office, Dante finally addressed it. "You think I'd be interested in her?" His tone was calm, but his dark eyes bore into hers. "She's friendly," Elena admitted, biting her lip. "It just worries me." He stepped close, the heat radiating from him overwhelming. "Elena," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face, "you worry too much. You're the one I want. Don't forget it." Her pulse thundered. Desire and relief battled the jealousy inside her. But their moment was shattered by a sudden interruption. A rival gang had slipped into his territory, testing boundaries. Dante's expression hardened. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Elena's stomach clenched. This was real danger, not just teasing words or stolen glances. She realized that being with him wasn't just thrilling, it was perilous. The confrontation was brief but tense. Dante commanded the room with ruthless precision, making threats that chilled Elena to the bone. And yet, after the danger passed, he turned to her, protective and possessive. "You see," he said softly, almost tenderly. "This world isn't safe. But I am. And I won't let anyone take you from me." Elena looked up into his eyes, her fear and desire colliding. "I trust you," she whispered, though her voice trembled. Dante smirked, leaning closer so their foreheads touched. "Good. That's all I need. You and me, against the world." Her heart pounded, not just from the danger but from the magnetic pull of him. She was beginning to understand that jealousy, danger, and desire weren't separate, they were all part of being with Dante. And for better or worse, she was addicted. The office was quiet, the city lights casting long, golden shadows across the floor. Elena had spent the evening with Dante, their conversations charged with unspoken words and lingering glances. Neither had mentioned the tension between them, but it hummed like electricity in the air. Dante leaned against his desk, his dark eyes locked on her. "You've changed," he said softly, his voice rough with something deeper. Elena's heart skipped. "Me?" "Yes," he murmured, stepping closer. "You're no longer just the innocent girl I found wandering into my life. You've become essential to me. And I need you to know. I've never wanted anyone like this before." Her breath caught. The intensity in his gaze made her knees weak. "Dante," she whispered, unsure if it was fear, desire, or both. He closed the distance, his hand brushing her cheek, thumb tracing her lips. "I can't hide it anymore," he confessed, his voice low, almost desperate. "I want you, all of you. I can't stop thinking about you, about feeling this pull. You're mine, Elena. Do you understand?" Her chest tightened, emotion spiraling. I feel the same," she admitted, voice trembling. "I didn't want to, but I can't deny it anymore." Dante's smirk softened into a rare, vulnerable smile. "Good," he murmured, and in the next heartbeat, he captured her lips with his own. The kiss was demanding, possessive, and filled with the hunger that had been simmering between them since their first encounter. Elena melted against him, responding with a passion that surprised them both. Fear and desire collided, igniting a fire that neither could ignore. Every touch, every whisper, drew them closer until it felt as though the world had narrowed to just the two of them. When they finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "You belong with me," he whispered, almost reverently. Elena's fingers curled into his shirt. "And I don't want to be anywhere else," she admitted, the words trembling but true. In that moment, the boundaries between danger, desire, and love blurred completely. They weren't just a mafia boss and an innocent girl anymore, they were something more. Something untouchable. And neither could deny it. Elena had begun to feel safe in Dante's arms, but safety in his world was always an illusion. That truth hit her hard the moment she overheard a hushed conversation in the hallway, one of Dante's closest men plotting against him and implicating her. Her heart thundered. She couldn't tell Dante, not yet. The fear that he might see her as weak, or worse, in danger because of her, knotted her stomach. But staying silent only made her feel complicit. When Dante returned to his office that night, she tried to act normal, but he noticed immediately. His piercing gaze seemed to read every thought, every hesitation. "You're hiding something," he said, voice low, dangerous. "Tell me." I overheard something," Elena stammered, words tumbling out. "Someone's betraying you, and they mention me." Dante's expression darkened, and suddenly the office felt colder. "You've been involved?" His question wasn't accusatory, but it cut deeper than any knife. "No. Never. I was just listening," Elena pleaded, heart breaking at the way his eyes narrowed. She had never seen him like this, so protective, so furious, and so terrifying. He stepped close, almost too close, and Elena felt both heat and fear in his presence. "If anything happens to you because of this, I'll make them regret it for the rest of their lives," he promised, his voice shaking with controlled rage. Tears pricked her eyes. "I don't want to lose you, Dante." "You won't," he said, softening slightly. He brushed a finger across her cheek, lifting her chin to meet his gaze. "But betrayal, it cuts deep. And trust, it has to be earned, even between us." Elena swallowed, feeling the sting of heartbreak at the thought of losing him, not just to danger, but to the walls he built around himself. "I'll do whatever it takes," she whispered. Dante exhaled, tension leaving his body in a slow, dangerous release. "Good," he murmured, leaning in to press a fleeting kiss to her lips. "Because this world will test us, Elena. And I won't let anything break us, not even betrayal." For the first time, Elena understood that being with Dante meant surviving storms, together. But storms came with fire, and fire left scars. The city never slept, but tonight it felt like it held its breath. Dante's enemies had struck again, daring to challenge him in his own territory. Elena clung to his arm as they approached the warehouse where the confrontation had been set. Her heart pounded, not just from fear, but from the knowledge that she had to face this chaos alongside him. "You stay behind me," Dante commanded, his voice cold steel wrapped in protective heat. Elena nodded, feeling a shiver run down her spine as he drew his gun, eyes scanning for every shadow, every movement. The rival gang had underestimated Dante. Their men moved boldly, thinking they could intimidate him, but his reputation was lethal. In a heartbeat, he dismantled their strategy with precision, every word, every movement radiating dominance. Elena watched, awestruck, as the man she had feared, and desired, turned into a storm of control and power. A thug lunged toward her, and Dante's hand shot out, catching her by the wrist and pulling her behind him. "Stay close," he barked, eyes blazing. Her pulse raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. As the final rival fell, Dante approached her, brushing a stray hair from her face, his chest heaving. "You see?" he murmured, softer now, almost tender. "No one hurts you while I'm near." Elena's breath caught. I was so scared," she admitted, trembling. "You were brave," he corrected, his thumb stroking her cheek. "You're stronger than you know. That's why you survive in my world, with me." Her chest pressed against his, her body still buzzing from fear and desire. "I don't want to hide behind you anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I want to stand with you. Always." Dante's eyes softened, a rare vulnerability shining through the fierce facade. "Then you will," he promised, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that tasted of triumph, passion, and possession. In that moment, danger had passed, but the bond between them had been forged in fire. Elena understood now that surviving Dante's world meant facing every threat, every fear, together. And when the night ended, nothing could break what had been tempered in the heat of chaos, desire, and unrelenting love. The city lights shimmered like molten gold, reflecting in Elena's wide eyes as she stood beside Dante. After the chaos, the betrayals, and the danger, it felt surreal to finally breathe without fear. But with Dante, peace was never simple, it was thrilling, intense, and utterly consuming. He stepped close, dark eyes scanning her face as if memorizing every line, every curve. "You survived," he murmured, voice low, rough with emotion. "Not just the streets, not just me. You survived everything." Elena's pulse raced. "I had you," she whispered. "And that made all the difference." Dante smirked, that dangerous, possessive curve of his lips. "Good," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because I don't let go of what I want. You are mine. Forever." Her heart skipped. And I don't want to be anywhere else, she admitted, stepping closer, her body warming to his touch. He caught her hand, pressing it against his chest. The warmth of his skin, the power of his presence, made her breath hitch. I could lay here forever, between your legs, he whispered, echoing the words that had started it all. But this time, there was no fear, no hesitation, only a promise, and desire tempered by trust and love. Elena shivered, leaning into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Then stay, she whispered back. Forever with me. Dante's lips found hers in a slow, possessive kiss. It was not just passion, it was connection, trust, and the unspoken vow that neither danger nor betrayal could ever undo. Their world had been forged in fire and desire, but now it was theirs, unbreakable. As they pulled back slightly, foreheads touching, Dante's hand traced the line of her jaw, thumb brushing her lips. We're bound, he said softly, almost reverently. By desire, by danger, by each other. Nothing else matters. Elena smiled, heart soaring. Nothing else ever will. And in that quiet moment, amidst the city that never truly slept, they embraced the life they had chosen, together, unafraid, and bound forever by love, passion, and the intoxicating danger that had brought them together. The Mafia world would never be safe, but with Dante, Elena finally knew what it meant to feel alive, and utterly, deliciously desired.